Dear book friends, as we prepare to turn the page into a new year, I'm slipping this little note your way to invite you to join me and a few wonderful booktubers for Epistolary January, a month-long celebration of stories told through letters, diaries, and journals. In today's video, I'll introduce my co-hosts, share all of our prompts, reveal our group read, share more about my New Year's Day read-along to kick off your epistolary reading, and of course, I'll have plenty of book recommendations for each category to help you build your January TBR. So pour yourself a cuppa, settle in, and let's open this month's mail together. Welcome to the Epistolary January announcement video. I'm Jen, and this is my reading life. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And today I am going to dive into all things epistolary. I will share with you all of the details for Epistolary January. I'm going to introduce you to my co-hosts, share all the prompts with you, talk a little bit about what it means to be an epistolary novel, and then we are going to get into the fun part, which is all of the recommendations that I have for you for each prompt. Settle in, grab yourself a cuppa, and let us get into Epistolary January. Last January was the very first Epistolary January hosted by the lovely Anne of In Search of Wonder, and she very kindly reached out to me this year and asked if I would like to be one of her co-hosts. And I, of course, said yes, because I love epistolary novels, as you well know if you've been watching me for any length of time. So myself, along with Cheryl from Candlewick Library, Jeanette from Jane Reads, and Kelli from Kelli Reads a Lot are joining Anne this year for the month-long journey through the epistolary form. Now, before we even get into any of the details for Epistolary January, first we're going to talk very briefly about what is an epistolary novel. Now, originally, an epistolary novel meant a novel written in letters. It can be one person's letters, it can be many people's letters, but anything written in a letter form. Since its origins, the definition of epistolary has really opened up and now means any story told through written communication, whether that's letters, diaries, in these days, emails, it could be memos, it could be faxes from back in the day. Everybody remember faxes? It could include newspaper clippings. Really, it can run the gamut of anything that's a written form of communication. Now, we are going to be very, very loose and laid back in our interpretation of epistolary. And so you should feel free, if the book that you want to read feels like it's epistolary, it has some form of written communication in it, feel free to read that and count it towards the Epistolary January prompts. And there's no epistolary police here. We are not going to come after you if it's not exactly epistolary. We just want this to be fun and just an opportunity for you to read a type of book that maybe you don't read all of the time, or to maybe find some titles and authors that you weren't familiar with. So come along with us. I hope you are all excited, and let us get into what the prompts are for this year. This year we have 6 prompts and 1 bonus prompt. I'm going to refer to my notes so that I can tell you all of the prompts, and I will give you exactly what that means. So let us get in. The first prompt is love letters. Basically what it says, this would be an epistolary romance. So any book where it's written in epistolary format and it involves romance in some way. Our next prompt is Lost Mail, and this is a classic or a book by an author who is no longer with us. Our next prompt, of course, has to be Correspondence, and this is any book written as letter. It can be fiction or nonfiction. Prompt number 4 is Airmail, and this would be a book set in a foreign country from where you live. So depending on where you are, that would determine what countries you would read from, just not from the country that you currently live in. So if you're in the United States, anything outside of that, if you are somewhere else in the world, then you can pick a book set somewhere where you don't live. Prompt number 5 is journal, and of course, this is a book written in journal or diary format. Our 6th prompt is telegram, and this is an epistolary novel featuring any communication other than handwritten letters. So this could be, again, like I said, faxes, memos, emails, text messages, any form of modern communication. It could be the telegraph, anything that you like that is not just a letter that is written to someone else. It's done in some other format. And then our bonus prompt is subscription, and this is an epistolary series. Now, we thought this might be a little bit more challenging, which is why it's the bonus prompt, though I do have some options for you in my recommendations today, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I definitely think it's doable. Now, before we get into my recommendations for each of the prompts, I have 2 special events that are happening in January that I want to share with you. First up, I have been talking about this on my channel, but what I have not shared is this is going to be our kickoff event for Epistolary January, and that is my day-long New Year's Day read-along of 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. Now, I actually got this idea from Hardcover Heart's blog on Instagram. She had recommended reading 84 Charing Cross Road on New Year's Day. It's something she does. She has hosted some read-along events of it over there, and I thought, how fun would that be to do it here on YouTube? We are going to read it all on New Year's Day, and we're going to do some live reading sprints to help you get those pages in. This is a very slim book. It is easily readable in one day. So if you are at home being cozy on New Year's Day, recovering from all the holiday festivities, I would love for you to join us. There will be a Discord group to discuss the book, so if you can't make it to the live, you can join us there. There's a link to my Discord down in the description box below. But as I mentioned, I am going to be hosting a live stream on January 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It would be the perfect time for you to come on and have some dedicated reading time for 84 Charing Cross Road. We will chat about the book a little bit. We will just talk about our New Year's plans, our reading goals and resolutions. We'll just have a lovely, cozy chat and reading time. So I would love it if you could join me. You don't have to come for all of it. You can come for any amount of time that works for you. And I would love to see you there. But whether or not you can make it to the live, I do hope that you join in the read along and read this lovely book on New Year's Day. It's the perfect way to start the year and kick off Epistolary January. And then next, we are going to be doing a group read this year. And this year, we are going to be reading Wired Love, a romance of dots and dashes by Ella Cheever Thayer. This book also would work for a couple of the prompts. I believe it would work for love letters. It would also work for the telegram prompt. And this book is available both on Amazon and on Project Gutenberg. I will have links to both of those down in the description box below. So if you would like to join us for the group read, and I hope that you will, please join us for reading Wired Love. All the hosts will be participating in a live stream discussion of Wired Love on Saturday, January 31st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over on Anne's channel, and I will have a link to that down in the description box below. So we would love it if you would join us to discuss Wired Love on the last day of January. So you'll have plenty of time to read it throughout the month. Lots and lots of good stuff happening in January. I hope you are as excited about Epistolary January as I am. Last year, I participated just as a participant, and this year I am so excited to be a host, and I have a huge stack of books next to me to recommend to you for each of the prompts. Without further ado, let us get into them. There are a lot. I have read every single one of these that I'm going to recommend to you, and I hope you have your notebook out or a piece of paper or the notes app on your phone so that you can jot down these titles, and hopefully this will inspire you to pick up something for Epistolary January. I have 3 recommendations for our first prompt, love letters. And first up is Meet Me at the Museum by Anne Youngson. This is a novel written in letters between a Denmark professor and a middle-aged woman who lives on an English farm. and they bond over the Tolland man, who was an ancient person preserved in a bog. And Tina has been fascinated by the Tolland man since she was a young girl, and they begin a correspondence, and then suddenly Tina's letters stop. And Professor Larson needs to decide what he's going to do about that because he's worried about her. And we follow along with their friendship and the story between them and how that relationship grows. This is a lovely, quiet epistolary novel, and it would be a lovely choice for the love letters prompt. My next recommendation for the love letters prompt is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. And this is the story of Tiffy and Leon. They share a flat, they share a bed, and yet they have never met. They share this flat. One of them, I believe, works nights, the other one works days, and so they alternate being at the flat, and they have a whole time schedule set up for that. And so they communicate to each other through Post-it notes left on the refrigerator door. Now, this book isn't written entirely in notes back and forth between Tiffy and Leon, but it does have that element to it, and there is definitely a love story happening here. And this is a very lovely modern-day romance. I believe it's very closed door. I don't think there are any open door scenes in this. So if that's something that concerns you, I think this is an okay one to pick up, but you may want to Google that just to confirm. However, I just thought this was so lovely. I enjoyed both Tiffy and Leon as characters. I read this when it first came out, and it was a very, very fun romance novel. So if that is something that you are looking for, then definitely pick up The Flat Share. This could also work for the Telegram option because they are using Post-it notes to communicate with one another, or notes left to each other on the kitchen. Then I think that's a fun way of tackling two prompts with this book. And my final pick for the love letters prompt is The Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. This is such a wonderful epistolary novel. It is letters between three friends, Evie, Tom, and Will, and we follow along. It's actually dual timeline, so it starts in the relatively present day, and then we go back to World War I, and the three friends are separated due to the war. They assume it's going to be over by Christmas and make plans to meet up, and we follow along with the story of what happens to the three of them. This was so lovely. When I first received this book for Christmas one year, the day after Christmas, I sat down and read it cover to cover. It was that good. I highly recommend it. I don't think you need to read it at Christmas time, so I still think this is a great pick for Epistolary January. It is set over the course of many years, and so it's a great read anytime, though if you did want to pick it up and read it at Christmas, it makes a great Christmas read as well. But The Last Christmas in Paris is wonderful. Our next prompt is Lost Mail, a classic or a book by an author no longer with us, and I have 3 recommendations for this as well. The first is Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster. Now, this is actually a bind up of Daddy Longlegs and the sequel Dear Enemy, so you could actually count this for the subscription bonus prompt as well, because it is a little duology. But Daddy Longlegs tells the story of Judy Abbott. She is an orphan who gets a mysterious male benefactor to help send her to college. And the only thing he asks in return is that she writes letters to him and tells him about what's going on in her life. And Daddy Longlegs is that story. It is so charming. This is a wonderful classic epistolary novel. If you have never read it, it is just the best. It's so good and fun. Dear Enemy is not quite as good as Daddy Longlegs, but I definitely recommend them both. However, if I'm going to recommend just one, then definitely read Daddy Longlegs. And my next recommendation for Lost Mail is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. And this is a nonfiction collection of letters that Rilke wrote to I believe a young officer cadet. And the letters are just all about life, love, philosophy, all kinds of things. This is so wonderful. I actually listened to the audiobook version of this read by Dan Stevens. I highly recommend that. So if you're looking for an audiobook option for Epistolary January, I think Letters to a Young Poet would make an excellent audiobook read. But regardless, after I listened to the audiobook, I had to get myself a physical copy because I knew I was going to want to reread it and annotate it. And this book is famous for a reason. incredibly powerful and so thought-provoking. So really, really lovely and very, very slim. So it packs a punch with very, very few words. And my final pick for Lost Mail is actually a Victorian epistolary novel, and that is Diary of a Nobody by George and Whedon Grossmith. This is such a fun read. This is the diary of Mr. Charles Pooter. He lives in London with his wife, and some hijinks might ensue. This is very fun. It very much reminded me of Samuel Pepys's Diaries, which I haven't read in completion because there's so many of them, but I did read excerpts of them in college. Pepys was very witty, very funny, and this book reminded me of that. So if you're looking for some lively journal entries written in an earlier time period, I definitely recommend The Diary of a Nobody. Our next prompt is correspondence, and correspondence really is the heart of the epistolary novel. And I'm going to start off with one that's very famous. Probably most of you know, probably many of you have read it. And that is, of course, The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaffer and Annie Barrows. And this is such a wonderful epistolary novel. These are letters written between a writer, Juliet, and some of the residents of the island of Guernsey, and it tells a lot about their story of their time under German occupation during World War II. This book is set in 1946, so immediately following the war. Such a wonderful, heartwarming, charming story. It is an ode to book lovers, and I just think it's just about perfect. I love this book so much. And if you read one epistolary novel in January, if you've never read this one before, pick this one up. And my next recommendation for the correspondence prompt is Frances and Bernard by Carleen Bauer. This is a very literary epistolary novel. It is based on the friendship between Robert Lowell and Flannery O'Connor, and it imagines letters between the two of them. And we follow their friendship over many, many years. It is a little bit, as I said, more literary, a little bit more erudite than some of my other recommendations. But if you're in the mood for that, I highly recommend this book. I don't often hear it talked about, and I think it is well worth a read. Just interesting insights, discussions amongst writers about writing, about life, just so lovely. And I think this would be a great pick for the correspondence prompt. My next recommendation is an underrated epistolary novel. I have recommended this on my channel numerous times. It is going to be on my favorite books of 2025, and that is The Bee and the Fly, The Improbable Correspondence of Louisa May Alcott and Emily Dickinson by Lorraine Taziello and Jane Cavallina. This book is so wonderful. If you are a fan of Louisa May Alcott and or Emily Dickinson, please pick this up. It is so lovely. It is based on some of the writings of both Louisa May Alcott and Emily Dickinson, and at the end, the authors really do get into how they came up with this possible friendship between these two women, and it really does seem plausible, even though there is no actual records or anything that show that the two of them were friends or knew each other, but they could have been, and this book imagines what their correspondence would have been like. I may actually do a reread of it in January because that's how much I loved it. Now, if you want a really fun read, then you need to pick up this next book. Again, this is a book I wish more people knew about. It is so wonderful, and that is Ella Minnow P by Mark Dunn. Now, this is set on the fictional island of Nollop, and Nollop is named after, what is his name? Nevin Nollop, who is the creator of the phrase, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," which uses all of the letters of the alphabet. And suddenly one day, a statue that is dedicated to Nevin Nollop starts losing its letters. And as the letters fall off, the island's council decides that they can no longer use those letters. They cannot speak them, they cannot write them. Well, hilarity and also potential totalitarianism takes over. This is such a wonderful book. I had this sitting on my shelf for so many years, finally picked it up and read it a couple of years ago. absolutely loved it. It's so fun. It's funny. It'll really kind of get your brain working because towards the end of this, the letters themselves don't have many letters of the alphabet in them. And so it makes it a little bit challenging to read as you see what letters are actually left that can still be used. I highly recommend this one. It is such a wonderful book. So again, this is another one. If you only read one book in January, this would be an excellent pick. Our next prompt is airmail, which are books set in a foreign country. And of course, for me, that means anything set outside of the United States. So for you, that might mean something different. And I have two recommendations for this prompt, and both of my recommendations are set in the UK. You know how I love books set in the UK. And my first recommendation is by one of my favorite authors, and that is Dear Hugo by Molly Clavering. And this is a correspondence between Sarah, who lives in Ravenscirk, Scotland, and Hugo, who is the brother of Sarah's fiance, who was tragically killed during World War II. This is just a few years after the war, and they are corresponding. Hugo is in London, and Sarah basically tells all about her life in Scotland. And we're really hearing everything from Sarah's point of view, so it's really just one-sided letters from Sarah to Hugo. We don't actually read his responses, though she does indicate things about how he's responded to previous letters. This is so wonderfully charming, and I absolutely love this. I will say that the ending was a surprise to me, and I know it was a surprise to some others who have read this as well, but I actually really loved the ending, and I thought it was just pitch perfect. If you want to immerse yourself in Scottish village life, then definitely pick up Dear Hugo. And next up is a very fun epistolary novel, and that is Business as Usual by Jane Oliver and Anne Stafford. And in this, we are following Hilary Fane, and she is from Edinburgh, but she has decided to spend a year in London before she gets married. So she is engaged, she has finished school, and she has gotten a job at, what is the name of the department store? Everyman's, which is very loosely disguised Selfridges. And she corresponds with her family and friends and her fiance, of course, about her time living in London and working at Everyman's, and about the people that she works with and the customers. And this is just so much fun. I think this would work for the love letters category also, so definitely keep that in mind. This could definitely work for possibly 2 prompts for you if you live outside of the UK, but this is such a charming and fun epistolary read, so I highly recommend it. I know that Handheld Press is no longer in business. If you can get your hands on this one, I highly recommend Business as Usual. And our next prompt is journal, which is, of course, a book written in diary or journal format. And first up, I have one of my very favorite coming-of-age novels, and that is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. How can you not love a book that's first line is, I write this sitting in the kitchen sink? And from there, we just go on to follow the most delightful family who live in this crumbling castle. They have very little money, though they were once well-to-do. We are being told the story from our main character, Cassandra's point of view, and we follow her and her sister Rose and some romantic entanglements and life with their family and their very eccentric father. And this book, if you've never read it, you absolutely should. It is wonderful, and it is perfect for this prompt. My next recommendation for the journal prompt is The Diary of a Provincial Lady by E.M. Delafield. This is such a fabulous book, or actually books. This would work for our bonus category of subscription because I have a bind up here of all 4 of the Provincial Lady books, which are The Diary of a Provincial Lady, The Provincial Lady Goes Further, The Provincial Lady in America, and The Provincial Lady in Wartime. I think E.M. Delafield creates such a unique character voice with the Provincial Lady, and these are definitely worth a read. Even if you just pick up the first one in this series, it's so fun. Again, very charming and very funny, and I think you might enjoy this one. And lastly, how could I not mention this beloved series of mine that we just did a read along of this year? But if you have not read these books yet, any of them would work for this prompt, and that is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. This is volume 1. There are currently 8 volumes out in the series. So of course, this would also work for the subscription prompt. These books start in 1883 as Emma returns to London after having been living with an aunt who she was working for, and she is back in her family home. She's an orphan, and we follow along with Emma. She lives in the village, not the village. She lives in the neighborhood of St. Crispian's, which is a fictional part of London, and St. Crispian's is very unique, has some very unique attributes to it. I think you should just dive into these without reading anything else about them. They are wonderful. They are well worth your time, and I highly, highly recommend them, and they're perfect for this prompt and, as I said, for the subscription prompt as well. And our next prompt is telegram, which is communication written in some format other than a handwritten letter. And I have a few recommendations for you in this category. First up, I am going to recommend The Killer Question by Janice Hallett. I actually think any of Janice Hallett's books would work for this prompt, so you could look at which title appeals to you. But I just recently read this one and absolutely loved it. It is set around pub quizzes in England, and it was so much fun. But her books are all written in emails, text messages, memos, all kinds of formats, not letters, and it makes for really, really fun and fast-paced reading. If you like mysteries, then definitely give one of Janice Hallett's books a try, but I definitely recommend The Killer Question. I thought it was excellent. It was well plotted. I did not see the reveal until it was revealed to me. And yes, I will definitely be reading more by her. I've read The Appeal. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed this one even more. So definitely give this one a try if you need an option for this prompt. My next 2 recommendations are actually both set in schools, which is just kind of funny. And the first one is a modern classic, and that is Belle Kaufman's Up the Down Staircase. And this is the story of Sylvia Barrett. She is a new school teacher at the Calvin Coolidge High School in New York. This is written in memos, announcements, just kind of any kind of correspondence that the administration writes to teachers and teachers send amongst themselves. And this is such a wonderful book. If you like books set in schools or books about teachers, if you've never read Up the Down Staircase, then definitely add this to your TBR. It's so much fun. And then lastly, I have a middle grade recommendation for this category. And again, as I said, it is also set in a school, and that is Regarding the Fountain, A Tale in Letters of Liars and Leaks by Kate Kleiss. And while this does feature some letters, it also features, again, like memos and announcements, and we have an interview transcript, so all kinds of different formats in this book. This is so fun. It's about this elementary school, and they are trying to get a new fountain put in the school, and hijinks ensue, let me just say. This is very fun, very quick, short little read, so if you need something like that to add to your January TBR, then definitely pick up Regarding the Fountain. And finally, we are on to our bonus prompt, which is subscription, which is an epistolary series. I surprisingly found more books that are epistolary and are part of a series than I was expecting to. I've already mentioned a few. Daddy Longlegs and Dear Enemy are a duology. The Emma M. Lyon books are also a series. The Diary of a Provincial Lady. So all 3 of those could fit into the subscription category as well. But I have 3 more books or series that fit into the subscription prompt as well. First up is The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4 by Sue Townsend. And this is what it says it is. It's Adrian Mole's diary. And I also have the second book in the series, which is The Growing Pains of Adrian Mole. There are now quite a few more books in the Adrian Mole series. I have a few of them on my own personal TBR, and I am hoping to maybe get to at least one of them in January. But Adrian Mole is so funny. This is set in, I think, the early 1980s, and it's just hilarious. Adrian is a British teenager, and these books are just so very, very funny. For anyone who's been a teenager, I think you can relate to Adrian Mole, and I definitely recommend these. They're good fun. Next up is a duology by one of my favorite authors. She is such a lovely, lovely writer and a lovely, lovely person. I actually have the second book in the series here. You can actually read either of these in any order, really, although I would recommend reading the first book first, just because it gives you a little background for this book, which is Kate and Frida by Kim Fay. The first book is Love and Saffron, and either of these would make a wonderful pick for this prompt. And this one is the story of Kate and Frida. They are two friends. One of them is in France, one of them is in Washington State, and they begin a correspondence and start up a friendship. And it is lovely, it is bookish, it is very food oriented as well. So lovely. Kim Fay is a wonderful writer. I highly recommend reading either Kate and Frida or Love and Saffron. Either would make excellent choices for Epistolary January. And my final recommendation for this video is a series that is so unique and that I absolutely loved. I first read this, I think I was in my late teens, early 20s when this was first published, and my mom gave it to me for Christmas. And that is the Griffin and Sabine series by Nick Bantock. Now, these are a very extraordinary, as it says, correspondence between Griffin and Sabine. But what makes these wonderful, we have what look like postcards, handwritten between the two characters. And then we also have, let me find one, pull out letters, which I love. This is one of my favorite things in books, when it has some sort of ephemera that you can pull out and looks handwritten. Fantastic. This is such a fun series. I have the trilogy here, and there are more books than this now. I think there's maybe 5 books. So Griffin and Sabine is the first book. Sabine's Notebook is the second book. And The Golden Mean is the third book. These are very short, very easy to read, very lovely. They would also work for the love letters category as well. So if you're looking for something for that prompt, Griffin and Sabine would be a fantastic pick. And that will wrap up, my many epistolary recommendations. If you've made it this far, congratulations. That was a lot to get through. I hope you are excited about Epistolary January. I am so very excited. And I hope you found something amongst these recommendations that you might want to read in January. And be sure to go check out my co-hosts announcement videos as well for even more recommendations of epistolary novels. And that is going to do it for today. I think I have given you all of the information that you need for Epistolary January. Let us chat down in the comments below. Are you going to be participating in Epistolary January? As long as you read one epistolary book, you have participated in the challenge. So I would love to know whether or not you're going to be joining us and what you're thinking about reading for Epistolary January. I would love to hear that, whether you might pick something from what I recommended here or you have something else you want to read. Let's chat all things epistolary novels down in the comments below. And if you're here but you don't have anything you'd like to add, but you want to let me know you were here because comments really do help my channel, well, of course, we have to leave something involving letter writing, an envelope, a pencil or a pen, a piece of paper, whatever it might be. Leave an epistolary emoji down in the comments below. I love seeing those and knowing that you were here, and they really do help my channel. And if you could hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and more about Epistolary January, because I definitely have more content coming up. I'll be sharing my TBR for Epistolary January in December, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for being here, for taking time out of your day to spend it with me here in my cozy corner of BookTube. And as always, I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye.